you live in Orange County. You live in Anaheim, right? It's not the cheapest place to live. You're running a nonprofit. One of the things that I do, my main job is a mortgage lender. But that's become so much more over the last few years because, a mortgage lender has to really help solve clients' problems because of affordability, just all the things going on with people. We're really working hard these days to try to help people understand the value of buying real estate and getting out of debt. Tell me a little bit about how you've been able to, I think you own a home you shared with me. Like, what has been some of the things you've done to stay in a great place financially while running a nonprofit?
Yeah, man. Awesome question. So I would say it's a few things. And it's funny, someone just texted me the other day about this. I have a young friend and he's like, hey, talk to me about real estate. He just got married. So him and his new bride are in their early 20s and they're trying to figure out their way. So I would say the way that we have been able to survive one of the most expensive places in the world is, I think, just thinking well about money and real estate. So, man, like we did the Dave Ramsey thing for a while. That really helped. So yeah, if I had to break down, like, I don't know, like your grandfather's principles of how to view money well, I mean, just off the top of my head, like, man, the first one has got to be just be really careful about debt. I think debt is an incredible tool, right? And I think one of the best tools inside of the debt universe is the 15 or 30-year mortgage. Like, it's incredible. You're telling me I can get a loan for a pretty significant amount and get a monthly payment that does not change for the whole life of the loan. That's unbelievably helpful for someone who's trying to get into a home. So I'd say that just think really well about debt. And then the other one, I mean, it's super basic, but spend less than you make. Like it's so easy to say, but so hard to do, especially as your salary goes up over time. It's like, man, if you can just like almost pretend like those dollars don't exist, it really helps. I would say this though, like I know you're in real estate. Actually, I wrote down some of my real estate principles, and I'm curious how you'd interact with these as a guy who knows a whole lot more about real estate than me, because these are very grandfatherly, right? Like none of them is going to be very forward thinking, I don't think, but I texted these to my buddy the other day. So I said, number one, real estate is first and foremost shelter, right? So I think that's the first thing as we think more about where we're living. Our home is a place where we're living. Second is the trade up approach. So we're really fortunate. We have two homes. We bought one with Ryan, with our mutual friend Ryan, about, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, something like that. I know longer, it's 8 years ago. And then we decided to trade up. But instead of just selling that and using the equity to buy the next one, we figured out a way to keep it and rent it out. And so that's been really helpful and has allowed us to kind of keep up with the growth in the market because, it's a hedge against inflation. As inflation goes up, we raise the rent on the place. So not everyone can do that. We're fortunate we're able to, but if you can do that, man, keep trading up. And that's kind of our plan for real estate is we just want to not upgrade, not trade up, so to speak, unless we can keep the old house and rent it out. And so I would say this, like that slows you down a lot. And that's probably a good thing because it prevents us from over leveraging ourselves. So yeah, real estate is shelter. That's number one. Number two, the trade up approach, trade up and trade out once you can afford to get the next place and keep the old place. And then I would say, man, number three, like don't time the market. Like you're almost always wrong, right? Unless you're an absolute professional and you really know what you're doing, like you're probably going to be wrong. Like buy and hold for the long run and buy when you can afford it. And certainly there's a time to sell real estate, no doubt. But don't try to sell real estate or buy real estate when you think the market's right. Do it when you can afford it. Because gosh, over the long run, I think there's like very, very few periods across 5-year windows in the real estate market where there's a decrease. There's a lot of 1-year periods where there's a decrease. But if you look at 5-year snapshots, like real estate is really reliable as an investment once you have a place to live. So, man, those are some of the principles we think about. But largely, they're pretty old fashioned. And I know a lot of people do really well using kind of more modern thinking with money and real estate. That's just kind of our style.
Well, there's nothing, I mean, honestly, some of that modern stuff gets people into trouble. I think your principles are timeless, honestly. That's what I preach. That's what I believe. That's what I've done. And I mean, from on this side of the screen, man, you're a guy who went through college and was going in this traditional kind of American career path. And now you're doing things where you're literally changing the planet. You're literally living out a dream. Like, I'm sure many days what you're doing doesn't even feel like a job. And what's important, I think, for people to hear is there's a reason why you get to do that every day, because you've created wealth and you've created income and you've created a lifestyle where you don't have to make a certain amount of money to live, and you've held on to assets, and you've understood and learned some of these really timeless principles, like buying real estate and not timing the market. And if you're going to buy a new house, try to keep the house if you can, because they go up in value, and rents are inflated every year by 7 to 8% in California. So I think that your story is perfect, man, and that's what people need to hear.